Hello, my friends. Okay, we're going to talk about this frequently asked question. I get this once in a while. It's essentially, how do I put this thing all together? I'm writing a book or I want to write a book, but how do I work the plan? How do I create a marketing plan and a project plan? Like, what's the deal here? And if you've been in my group for a while, you know we've covered a lot of these topics. So this is the question that puts it all together. How do I create a book plan? So to answer that question and to put this all together, and even if you haven't been in the group or you haven't been watching all of the videos, that's totally fine. This question and the answer that I'm going to give today will be exactly what you need no matter where you are in the process. Okay, so if you haven't even started writing your book, perfect. You are going into this eyes wide open. If you've started writing, or even if you're almost done, that's totally fine. It's never too late, unless, of course, maybe you're already published. Then it's a little too late to create a plan. You can continue marketing. We can talk about that too. But if you're already published, you're probably not watching this one. But let's move on, okay? There are 6 main areas that you are going to want to put some thought into and take out a pen and a notebook or whatever, however you want to make these goals concrete. Make these things concrete. You're going to have to get this in black and white, so you are very clear on your book plan. This is the 6 areas that we're going to talk about. Number 1, and by the way, these are kind of what you would want to do in the order. You should do them in this order because they will continue to build on each other. Number 1, you want to get really clear on your goals. What does success look like to you with this book? What does failure look like to you with this book? I get a lot of clients saying success is just publishing this thing and that is it. Like if I sell 1 copy, I am happy. I get some other clients who are like, if I don't get a traditional deal, I'm going to feel like a failure. If you define success and failure your own way, that's all that matters, okay? You do not need to figure out what success looks like for an author of a memoir or a self-published author. You don't need to go Google this one. This is from inside. So you sit down and you ask yourself, I'm going through the process of writing this book, my memoir. It's a hard, long process. It's going to take time, energy, and money. What does success look like in the end for me? And get as specific as you can. What does failure look like to you? Typically, the answer to this question is my book never gets published. Sometimes it's I don't get a traditional deal, but most of the time, if an author is interested in a traditional deal and then that doesn't work out, they come back and they self-publish and they don't feel like it was a total failure. So get very specific on what failure looks like to you. It could be just the opposite of success, but I want you to feel into both. You know, where would you feel like you completely dropped the ball on this project and this wouldn't feel like you've gotten closure on it? What do you want this book to do out in the world? What do you want it to do for you? And what do you want it to do for your readers? And not like, we aren't talking about like, I want my readers to learn XYZ. Do you want to reach masses? Do you want to be able to go speak with people? Is this part of a bigger mission for you? Or are you just hoping to reach as many people as possible from the comfort of your own home, and you don't necessarily want to put a ton of time or energy into it because your goal was just to publish the thing? Again, there is no right or wrong answer here, but you need to understand, you need to look into the future and see where this book lives and see where it takes you. Once you release your book into the world, it really is no longer your story. You're sharing it, it's your story, but you are allowing it to be a separate entity and to live how other people are going to take it. So it's almost like you're allowing them to adopt your story as their own. And you want to have an idea and kind of a purposeful, intentful idea of this is what I want my book to do once it's born. My baby is born here. So decide whether or not this book is part of a bigger mission for you. Sometimes that looks like, oh yeah, I'm starting this business in this area and this book is just going to kick things off for me. Sometimes it's a complementary book to what you're already doing in maybe a business or a volunteer type of area in your life. Sometimes it's none of those, and that's perfectly fine. So area number two is project management. And the sooner you can shift into this mindset for your book plan, the better, because project management is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. But we've spent some time talking about the elements of project management, and I'm going to just kind of go over them very, very generally right now. So go back and revisit some videos on this stuff if you need some more specifics. But under project management, what you want to get very clear about is your budget. And when you think about your budget, you want to determine how much DIY you have an appetite for. Are you very comfortable with cover design, and that's something you want to do for yourself? Are you comfortable with formatting, and that's something you want to do for yourself? That might be a budgetary thing. That might just be a preferential thing. But you need to get very specific on your budget and try to keep in mind that as this process unfolds and as you continue getting more specific with your book plan, the budget may shift a little bit, but you need to have an idea of where you're starting. Let's say you threw down a budget of $5,000. And that includes editing and formatting and book design, cover design and all of that, okay? So that's the gamut. That's where you're like, okay, this is what I have, or this is what I will have by the time it's done. But then later you realize, like, to get all of the things that you want, you may have to spend $6,000. That's okay, but as you're only $1,000 away versus $6,000 away, right? By the time you get there, you'll have already accepted the fact that you're going to probably be spending a few dollars, and that will help you keep your options in line with your goals and all of that. So think about the do-it-yourself component of the budget, but don't if you can, do not go cheaper just to go cheaper. So you're going to have to do some research on what kind of professionals are out there that can help you, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Under the project management umbrella is also deadlines. Do you have a specific date in mind? Is there some type of thing coming up in your life that might slow you down, or you maybe have some time available to work on the book? So start thinking time-wise. And as best as you can, start trying to determine what small daily chunks your project might look like. So for example, let's say you're going to have 20 chapters and each chapter is 10 pages. You're looking at 200 pages. That's a pretty decent sized memoir. If you want to have this done in a year, well, you just have to probably write 1 page a day, right? Like, what is the math you can do behind, breaking it down into small chunks and setting some kind of self-motivating goals? Okay, I can do 1 page a day, or 10 pages a week, or a chapter a month, or whatever it is. Start trying to think of it in smaller chunks. Think about it in phases of first draft, revision, hiring some editors or proofreaders or whatever it is to go through it. There's different phases we've talked about. So try to think of the big picture. How long will it take realistically to get this book done? And what does that mean on a daily or weekly basis, a smaller little chunk of time? And then now wherever you are, if you haven't done it already, is the time to start establishing some strong writing habits. You just want those writing habits in place as early as possible. These are things like having a separate little sacred space for your writing, having little rituals like I get my favorite cup of tea, I put my fun little hat on, whatever the ritual is that helps put you in that writing mood. There's some music, there's a candle, whatever. Carving out time in every single day that you absolutely will not let anything else come in and steal, okay? With very few exceptions. You should just try to find that space, that writing space. Whatever time of day it is, however big or small it is, it does not matter. The main key here is to keep it, and I use the word sacred, but like, do not let anything touch that space. So it's not, hey mom, do you have time to XYZ, and you're going, well, I was going to write later, but I guess I could do XYZ. The answer is no. I'm going to be writing later. I'm going to be writing at that time, so let me help you afterwards. Whatever it is, but you are unavailable during your writing time. Close the door, lock it, hide the key. The sooner you get used to saying, no, I'm going to be writing, the more you will be able to get into the headspace quicker and accomplish the work for the day and move on. Because it takes some adjusting to come out of real life, go into a writing space and focus, especially if you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 15 minutes because all these things are happening. But if you are used to, you've exercised the muscle and it's getting stronger by the day of closing that door and having that space, it's going to get easier, I promise. So that's all kind of under that project management umbrella. Number 3, the third bucket you need to account for in your book plan is, as early as possible, do some research and determine whether or not self-publishing or traditional publishing is going to be the best path for you. You're going to want to take into consideration your budget, your book goals, your DIY desires, any deadlines that you truly are trying to hit, although many of them are self-imposed, but if you do have some type of actual time frame that needs to be taken into consideration, think about that, because traditional publishing is a much longer journey than self. And so as soon as possible, jump in and look at these things. Do some research on indie publishers and, the big houses. Connect with authors, published authors who maybe are in your space, memoirists who have traditionally published or self-published. Try to get some information from other people who have gone this way, if that helps you make the decision. We have done some extensive talking about that in this group. I spent an entire month on deciding, whether or not you should go left or right at the fork here, traditional or self. So there is a wealth of knowledge out there, but you need to understand what is going to be your best bet to start out with. Now, if things shift later on, that's okay, because this is a bit of an art form. Things tend to shift. That's okay. Don't freak out. This is not a plan that you are setting in stone. You're not signing away your life like Ariel when she signs a scroll, okay? You're not signing away anything. This is just to make sure that you stay on track, meet your goals, and that you write your best book possible, okay? So do some research, make a decision, feel at least 80 to 90% confident with it right now, okay? I want you to feel very confident with your decision right now, and then continue on down that path. And as things shift, if you start feeling less confident with that decision, revisit the plan, revisit your goals, revisit your budget and timeline. A lot of times, if you start down the traditional publishing path, you will hit places that feel more frustrating. And you're going to need to either check yourself at that point and say, like, self, this is part of the journey, or self, like, if this isn't for you, that's okay. Let's shift over to a different path that can help me get my goal accomplished, namely get my book published, right? So that's the third category, or the third category, self versus traditional. You just need to make a decision. The fourth category, as soon as possible, sooner is better, you need to start building your author platform. We've talked about this author platform thing in a few other videos as well. And you essentially need to start wrapping your head around, what does it look like for me to talk about my book, for me to connect with people that are in my readership, determine where you're already connecting with those people, and then where you need to make some, start establishing your presence in other areas, both on and offline. Think about your book goals here. Think about whether this is part of a bigger mission. If you are kind of like, I just want to write this thing and throw it up on Amazon and be like, that's enough for me, that's okay. This may be a small step, and you may be going like, yeah, I'll probably talk about it on my Facebook page and tell my family, and that's about it. I don't want to do anything else. That's okay, but you need to think about this. Where are you going to connect with your readers? This isn't about ads and marketing and just constantly talking about your book. This is about being seen as an author, being heard in the space in which your book will live. So this is not necessarily marketing. We'll talk about that one. But do some thinking about your author platform and understand that the sooner you start building this, the better for your long-term goals. The fifth bucket is professionals. Now, we talked about this under budget, and you still should be revisiting your budget and understanding that at this point, once you start reaching out to professionals and once your draft kind of gets a little bit more finalized, let's say maybe you have a first draft, it's not been revised, but you want to get an idea of some specific costs. Do you need a developmental editor? Do you need a line editor? Do you need a copy editor, right? What do you need to meet your goals and get this book done? So before your draft is finished, you want to start reaching out to professionals to find someone that you connect with, get some rates, get some quotes, understand, get maybe an assessment done. Like, what does your book truly need? Sometimes it's hard to tell when you are so close to the thing. And then go back and revisit your budget. Are you able to get everything you need for this book within the budget that you've set, or do you need to make some adjustments? Do you kind of need to make some decisions on what professionals are going to be making the budget cut or not, right? And then determine whether or not within the context of working with your professionals, determine whether or not your deadline is realistic and whether or not you need to kind of do some reassessing there as well. I've had many clients who, and God love you, I love you. You're motivated, you want to get the book done, but sometimes your deadline is like, okay, let's slow the wagon train down. We got to do this right. You don't want to rush. This is work you do not want to rush. I would much rather be late on every single deadline that my clients request if it means I'm getting the job done right, a high quality job. So I put quality over speed. I value quality more than speed, but of course I always try to meet deadlines. But my point is, get realistic with yourself. What are you expecting? What will you be asking of your professionals? Is that realistic? Can they deliver? The sixth and final bucket under the book plan topic is marketing, of course, right? You got to talk about this thing. So you want to start putting together a promo plan to start talking about your book before it's published and after. And typically when it's not published yet, you're kind of looking at what they call a book launch. You're leading up, you're building some anticipation, some excitement. You don't do this for 6-12 months or anything, maybe a month or two. Do some research on what leading up to your publication date might look like, what that entails. And then what should you be doing to market this book afterwards? You're going to want to take it back to your book goals. You're going to want to look at your budget and whether or not you're going to want to hire someone to help you with the marketing. You're going to want to look at your platform. Where are you trying to connect with people? And what kind of marketing and promotional activities can you undertake within that platform? And do you need to expand your reach? Consider places like blogs, other blogs and websites, your social media profiles, and places that you are already existing. You already have a following, I should say, more than one follower. Consider whether or not there's any print publications that might be a good fit for your book, and any in-person events. Maybe you want to do workshops or there's speaking events. What personal connections do you have, or might you be able to make through another connection that could lead to a bigger audience or a potential promotional opportunity? Look into whether a pre-sale might be a good fit for your book and help you meet your needs. This isn't always a thing that everyone wants to do, but sometimes it can be quite beneficial for you and your book. And do you want to get your book in bookstores? That, my friends, is something you have to start working on early, okay? You can't just expect bookstores to pick up your book 2-3 years down the road. They might, but typically newer releases are going to get picked up before a book that has been out on the market, especially if you're not showing good sales, right? You're not going to convince them that taking up room on their shelves is going to be to their benefit. So think about these things early on. That is what this book plan is. It's taking all of these things that we've talked about, all of the things that are involved in writing a book except the writing, okay? Like this is not the writing stuff. And putting them all together and making a beautiful plan and having kind of a practice of keeping this plan in mind while you are writing. All of this is stuff that you can be working on during the writing process. So you don't need to have all of these things in place and then start writing. So you can start writing, you can be building your goals, you can be talking about your author platforms, maybe start building your website or whatever you want to do research with publishers while you are writing, okay? So this video is, my intent with it is to outline those non-writing things that book writers need to be aware of and help you craft a smart plan for you to continually go back and revisit and keep you on track to writing your very best, most amazing book. Okay, so that is it for today's video. And I would love to hear if you have questions on the book plan, or if you have created your own book plan, let me know. And we'll just keep the conversation going. Oh, and if you want links to my other videos that go deeper into these topics, drop a comment below and I will tag you on those videos, because we have talked about all of these things quite extensively. Marketing, I think, is still coming up, but most of these topics we have dove into, some of them for an entire month. So there is a wealth of knowledge out there from me and other resources, and so we will get you on the right track and help you build a plan that works for you. Okay?